Released from his crate at the edge of a huge expanse of CRP, the young springer Gus hit the ground running and was immediately on a bird. In hot pursuit, my Usain Bolt impression lasted 10 yards, then slowed substantially when the distance stretched to 50 yards. At 75 yards, my burning lungs called time out. No gold medal for Alan. When I last saw him, Gus was at 300 yards, and I remember thinking of a picture I had once seen depicting the biblical parting of the Red Sea. But here the water was wave upon wave of departing ringnecks, peeling off from both sides of a brown field, and Moses merely a white speck with floppy ears. That was my introduction to pheasant hunting in North Dakota many years ago, and after 20 years of training and hunting with pheasant dogs, it was the first time I had given any consideration to the possibility that one of those relatively new shock collars I had been reading about might be worth investigating. Like many dog owners of the time, I had pooh-poohed the electronic collar as an inhumane, expensive and lazy way to train a bird dog. But my traditional methods with whistle and check cord and rewards had not worked on the otherwise lovable Gus. He was a bird-finding machine, but the hunt was all about him, and his objective seemed to be to flush as many pheasants as far out of range as possible. I would curse loudly during my short, mindless chase, intending to administer discipline, but my burning lungs always brought me up way short. The collar I finally bought for Gus was primitive by today's standards. It had one setting, shock, and I used it in conjunction with a whistle. But bull-headed Gus, with his phenomenal nose, was often inclined to ignore the stimulation, and I was often tempted to zap him just because he made me angry. A definite no-no in e-collar training. When he ignored the whistle, the brief bite of electricity sometimes reined him in before he had escaped its range and cleared another field of pheasants. Sometimes, though, it didn't. Whistle be damned. When Gus was retired and his place was taken by Sis, a yellow lab, e-collars had become more sophisticated, and I bought one with 3 different buttons, one that vibrated to garner her attention, another that beeped and served as a comeback call, and a third that administered the bite. Sis, though, was particularly anxious to please, and I never used the third button. And then along came my Brittany, Lucy, my Lucy Lou, my newest love and probably my last. My first dog had been a Brittany Spaniel, and I had failed him miserably. Now I was almost 70, and Lucy was my chance to do it right. After hunting her 1 year with Sis's old collar, I plunked down a fair chunk of change halfway through the season and purchased a collar better suited for a far-ranging pointer easily lost in tall sagebrush or cattails. The primary selling point was that it had a locate button which caused the collar to emit a high-pitched sound that would help me find her when I lost visual contact. I charged it up and put it on her the very next day on a quail hunt in the sagebrush south of town, where I quickly discovered the locate button did no good for a man with severe high-frequency hearing loss. Unless Lucy and I were head-to-head, I couldn't hear it. Lucy pointed numerous times that day, holding birds for as long as 15 minutes, despite my whistles, my shouted pleas, and all the gut-wrenching that takes place when you think your dog is lost. I gave that collar to a young friend with better hearing and invested $800 in a GPS collar and a handheld device with a 5-mile range and a screen that shows me where Lucy is and if she's on point. It's also capable of waking me up in the morning, locating my vehicle, and tracking my route. I haven't become entirely comfortable with some of its other functions, but I'm pretty sure it could also clean my shotgun and cook my breakfast. It was the ideal electronic collar until I lost the handheld device while hunting grey partridge in the sagebrush around Swanson Lake. Though I spent a good part of that day on my hands and knees, my search was in vain. But bird hunting is what I do. When I got home, I immediately called the company and ordered another handheld device. I thought it would be a couple $100, but it was 3 times that. I wasn't back in business until I saved enough to buy another, which made for a pretty Spartan Christmas for my family. They can blame it on Gus. Republished with permission from Blame It on Gus by Alan Liere, 2018. The Upland Almanac, Summer 2018. 2018 by Alan Liere.